This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Alone, Yunxiao flew through the air like a bolt of lightning, covering 1,000 miles in the blink of an eye. Soon, they arrived at the center of the rainy land in Guangquan's memory. It was an empty sky without anything unusual. He made a hand seal and shot out several rays of light that flew into the air and disappeared. Following a series of explosions, the entire sky split open, and a large amount of astonishing spiritual energy gushed out, forming a landscape. Yunxiao was about to fly into it when a beam of light suddenly shone down from the sky. He suddenly teleported 100 meters away and dodged the light. A mirror surface appeared in the sky, flashed, and then disappeared. This must be the heaven observation mirror. Yunxiao did not know what kind of divine power the mirror had except for its ability to shine and reveal itself, so he did not dare to approach it rashly. With a flash between his eyebrows, gored little King Kong flew out and headed toward the landscape. Ripples appeared in the sky once again. The heaven observation mirror appeared and the mirror's light shone down. The gored little King Kong's body froze, as if it had sensed a strange force in its body. It raised its head and looked at the sky. Its four limbs became sluggish, and its movements became extremely slow. Yunxiao looked over and saw a thin layer of light covering the body of the gored little King Kong. It looked like a water membrane, and it was extremely sticky, constantly slowing down the gored little King Kong's movements. Clang! Suddenly, a ray of light shot out of the heaven observation mirror and slashed at the gored little King Kong. Bang! The ray of light hit the gored little King Kong directly and bounced off, leaving only a shallow mark on the gored little King Kong's body. Eh? A voice of disbelief and suspicion came from the void, as if he couldn't believe it. The corners of Yunxiao's mouth turned up as he shot out a beam of light from his finger. Swish! A hole was burned in the sky. The finger radiance was blocked by a force and extinguished instantly. The hole cracked open, and a beautiful figure slowly walked out. Her face was as cold as frost as she stared at Yunxiao. Guangyan? Yunxiao asked. The dragon tribe woman's body trembled as she exclaimed, "You know me? Who are you?" Yunxiao chuckled. He had heard her name when he was hiding in the space-breaking shuttle. Just you? What about the other dragon guards? Who exactly are you? Guangyan became alert and shouted. As expected, he's alone. Yunxiao grinned evilly as he teleported into the space. Guangyan wanted to stop him, but she stopped in the end. Her eyes were cold, and she knew that she would attack as soon as Yunxiao was bound by the heaven observation mirror. However, when the other party stepped into the mirror, a thin layer of water vapor covered his body. It was as if he was a water elemental incarnation. He could move without any obstacles in the mirror, and in just a few steps, he had already walked 100 meters. Stop! Guangyan was shocked and shouted. She was anxious and did not understand why the other party was not affected by the heaven observation mirror. She hurriedly cast a seal into the air, and the heaven observation mirror immediately shot out a slash, breaking through the air. Yunxiao chuckled and raised his head, the power of the moon pupils appearing in his eyes. The slash whizzed down and directly cut into his eyes before being absorbed. Guangyan was first overjoyed, but then she was shocked. She revealed a look of disbelief and was at a loss. It was not until Yunxiao put away gored little King Kong and disappeared from the heaven observation mirror that she suddenly came to her senses and immediately chased after him. It was a vast expanse of green mountains and clear waters. A huge formation appeared in the sky, shining with light. Eh? You're actually showing it off so generously. I thought it would take some effort. After a moment of surprise, Yunxiao began to carefully observe the array. This was a great array. The reason why it was said to be big was because the array's surface extended for who knew how many kilometers. It was as if it had directly merged into the sky, and the entire dome had turned into a great array. The formation was integrated into one, and no trace could be found. While Yunxiao was thinking about how to find the array core, several beams of light flew over and surrounded him. Guang Yan also flew over in a few flashes and held the heaven observation mirror in front of him. Her face was cold and serious. "Sister Guang Yan, who is this person?" one of them asked. His face was delicate and young. Yunxiao glanced at them. There were 5 of them, including Guang Yan, and they were all high-level martial sovereigns, but the strongest was only an 8 stars martial sovereign. There were 17 dragon guards at the moment, and Guang Quan was dead. As he had guessed, the dragon head and 10 9-star martial sovereigns had already surrounded Yu. A trace of worry flickered in Yunxiao's eyes, and he began to worry for Yu. However, when she thought about his body, although it wasn't the real 9 secrets, it had fused with 7 dragon secret treasures, a real dragon's dragon shell, golden dragon bones, and Run Xiang's blood. He was probably not far from the real 9 secrets dragon body. Even if he couldn't defeat the dragon guards, he should be able to protect himself. Only when he thought of this did he relax a little. Guang Yan's face was frosty as she said coldly, "You're the intruder who escaped the detection of the heaven observation mirror. How dare you take the initiative to come to our door?" Although she appeared fierce, she was actually extremely shocked in her heart. Not only did the heaven observation mirror have no effect on him, but how did he leave the Xuanxing absolute kill formation and the siege of 5 9-star martial sovereigns? Moreover, when he checked with his divine consciousness, the other party did indeed only have the strength of a 4-star martial emperor. What? An intruder? The other 4 were shocked and glared at him. Their killing intent increased even more when they found out that Yunxiao only had the power of a 4-star martial emperor. "Sister Guang Yan," Yunxiao said with a smile, "can you tell me where the Eye of the Dragon Lock array is?" Guang Yan's expression changed and he shouted in anger, "Kill." The heaven observation mirror in her hand shone again, but what shot out from it was not mirror light, but rays of sharp light that fell like rain. The dragon breath in the other 4 also burst out as they roared and rushed forward. Yunxiao took out the divine realm tablet and released the evil spirit and Bin Chan, then said, "Leave all of them alive." "Lord Guang Quan." Guang Yan's body trembled and she said in shock. An evil smile appeared on the evil spirit's face. With a strange smile, it grabbed its battle axe and slashed it in all directions. Boom. As soon as the 2 9-stars martial emperors made their move, the joint force of the 5 men collapsed in an instant, and they were dragged into the divine realm tablet by Yunxiao one by one. "We can have a good chat now." Yunxiao suddenly appeared in front of the 5 men and looked at them with a smile. Guang Yan looked around in shock. She could feel that this place was definitely not a rainy place. She said angrily, "Hurry up and let us out, or Lord Dragonhead and the others will not let you off." "If I let you out, will the Dragonhead let me go?" Yunxiao laughed. "I'll be fine." Guang Yan was stunned and became silent. Clearly, she could not. Yunxiao laughed. "It's the same result, isn't it? Then why should I let you out? Tell me, how do I break this dragon lock spell?" "Just kill me," Guang Yan said firmly. "It's up to me," Yunxiao sneered. "Whether you live or die is up to me." His eyes turned into a blood moon and the power of his eye sorcery gushed out madly, instantly stunning Guang Yan. "Tell me, how do I break this dragon lock spell?" Guang Yan's face was blank. "I must find the dragon shaking hammer." The 4 dragon guards were all shocked and wanted to rush forward, but they were suppressed by a force. They couldn't even speak, and could only angrily glare at him. "How can we find the dragon shaking hammer?" Yunxiao asked with a frown. "How can we find it?" Guang Yan said, "The dragon lock formation has no beginning or end. It covers the entire land of rain. Only the heaven observation mirror knows where the dragon shaking mallet has gone to." "I see." Yunxiao stretched out his hand and grabbed the heaven-observing mirror in Guang Yan's hand, then disappeared into the divine realm tablet. Guang Yan immediately regained her senses and her face turned pale. Yunxiao poured his divine sense into the heaven observation mirror and began to analyze the profound level weapon. He was surprised. The structure of the heaven observation mirror was not complicated, and it was very simple to refine. However, after layers of transformation by the embedded formation, it had the effect of peeking at the truth. I wonder if this mirror's ability is related to the Eye of Truth of the bow family of the Four Seas. This thought suddenly appeared in his mind, but it was only a flash. He instantly wiped away the imprint that Guang Yan had left behind and took out the heaven observation mirror. A ray of light shot out from the mirror and into the sky. The moment the light came into contact with the formation, it began to spread in all directions. The entire formation map began to appear in the sky. Countless large and small circles interlocked with each other, forming a huge formation. Moreover, it evolved on its own and grew endlessly. Yunxiao's eyes fixed on the man. Finally, he detected an abnormality in a certain part of the formation. A dragon-shaped object was shuttling back and forth within it, occasionally appearing and disappearing. It's a formation core that can move on its own. Taken aback, Yunxiao teleported and rushed forward, transforming into a thunderbolt as he merged his body into the array and reached out to grab the dragon-shaped thing. The little dragon was immediately alarmed. With a whoosh, it shuttled back and forth, disappearing before his eyes. Humph. With a sneer, Yunxiao teleported inside the array and caught up with the figure in the blink of an eye. The hand of lightning expanded to several feet in size in the air and grabbed at the figure. The little dragon's tail continued to swing as it tried to escape again, but an extremely strong mental energy turned into a mountain and suppressed the space. The giant hand then fell and grabbed it. Yunxiao's face flickered as he felt a vast power spreading in his palm, about to break out of his body. He took out the mirror of great sorrow with his left hand and shone its mirror light at the giant hand. The mirror light sealed the sky and the earth, and only then did it manage to absorb the vast dragon power. Humph. Yunxiao snorted coldly again as he opened the immemorial heavenly eye between his brows. The divine realm tablet flew out and took the little dragon into it. He sensed that the little dragon was suppressed by the infinite rules in the divine realm tablet. As expected, it turned into a hammer and was pressed into the ground, unable to move. Yunxiao was overjoyed. He put away the divine realm tablet and was about to leave. All of a sudden, the entire heaven and earth turned gloomy. The boundless dragon lock spell lost its formation eye and began to become extremely unstable. The green light was like a wave, pushing away in the air. Yunxiao was taken aback. The eye of the array had disappeared, and the entire array seemed to be on the verge of collapse. If such an astonishingly large formation were to collapse, the consequences would be unimaginable. He teleported out of the array space and thought about his next step. Suddenly, the power of dragon's breath slowly rose from the ground, and a series of deep dragon roars resounded across the entire land. Faintly, they seemed to come from ancient times. Yunxiao was taken aback and looked around in horror. The power of the dragon breath and the dull dragon roar came from the hills, as if the entire dragon graveyard in the rain was in an uproar. What's going on? Yunxiao was shocked. The countless cries, some deep and some shallow, some far and some near, and the earth trembling were as if the owners of these tombs were coming back to life. What's going on? Could it be that the purpose of the dragon lock spell is to suppress the endless dragon tomb? Yunxiao was dumbfounded as he felt the endless and increasingly stronger auras. Suddenly, the restless dragon breath quieted down. It was as if a noisy classroom had suddenly quieted down after a teacher's shout. Just as Yunxiao was puzzled, he suddenly felt a heart-palpitating aura coming from afar. Two boundless sword essences shot through the air, as if they were piercing through heaven and earth. Like the blazing sun, they illuminated the boundless land of rain. The tens of thousands of dragon tombs that were in an uproar just now quieted down one by one under this sword light. They did not dare to make any sound. Yunxiao's face turned pale. The two beams of sword chi were so strong that they even penetrated his divine body, freezing his blood and making him extremely cold. He gritted his teeth and turned into a bolt of lightning, flying toward the source of the sword chi. In the sky above the dragon-gathering island, Cheiyu and the dragon head faced each other. The two swords shone brightly as they transformed into a world. Cheiyu's face was pale. Under the radiance of the world of swords, everything became blurry and illusory. It was as if only he and the dragon head were left in the entire world, looking at each other. The dragon head's eyes were filled with coldness as it snorted, "With one sword, you will die without a doubt. I have the body of the 9 secrets. The strongest dragon body in the world. You should be the one to die." Yu gritted his teeth. The so-called 9 secret dragon body is just a joke. The dragon head sneered. How much power can you display from this Shumi selfless sword? And this no-beginning calamity sword has the entire Dragon Gathering Island as its source of power. If that's the case, what are you waiting for? Yu said coldly. Why aren't you drawing your sword to kill me? The dragon head's pupils contracted, and his face darkened. In fact, both of them were very clear that under these 2 world swords, it was very likely that both of them would die. No one dared to use their swords easily, and just let the 2 swords shine and evolve the world. Suddenly, the dragon head's expression changed, as if it had sensed something. It said in anger, "The dragon lock spell. Dragon shaking hammer. Your companion actually dared to have designs on the dragon shaking mallet." Yu frowned. He also felt that the vast formation power between heaven and earth had become extremely unstable. The heaven and earth that could continuously replenish the dragon power had lost its effect. He knew that it must have been Yunxiao who had gotten the dragon shaking hammer, so he looked indifferent and expressionless. Damn it! The dragon head's eyes lit up and he said coldly, "If the dragon lock spell is broken, all of you will be buried with me." He roared in anger and struck out with his hands. The boundless calamity sword in front of him was pulled out from the ground and slowly rose into the air. The power of the entire Dragon Gathering Island's formation poured into the sword, and the infinite sword power began to crush it. Yu's expression became extremely alert. His transparent glass body turned into a half-dragon form, and he held the Shumi-anthing sword with both hands, carefully controlling the power. The glass world was crystal clear and as solid as metal. It was on par with the sword chi gathered by the barrier of Dragon Gathering Island. The 2 of them had extremely grave expressions, clearly not wanting to take this sword head-on. After a brief moment of rage, the dragon head gradually calmed down. If this sword was used, even if the 2 of them did not die, they would be severely injured. Now that the dragon lock spell was destroyed, the power to repair the dragon's body disappeared. The injuries suffered by the world sword were no longer a matter of how long it would take to recover, but whether it could be recovered. Once he was crippled, would the remaining 10 dragon guards be able to stop the remaining intruders? Now that the dragon lock spell had been destroyed, it would be difficult to protect the land of no beginning. Once these people entered, what would happen if they blasphemed the first dragon ancestor? A series of headache-inducing questions flashed through the dragon head's mind, causing his body to tremble slightly. He hesitated to slash out with his sword. As the 2 swords clashed, the 10 dragon guards felt their bodies turn cold as they looked at the world within the sword in fear. The 5 dragon guards who had been guarding the Xuanxiang absolute killing formation had also arrived. However, the auras of the 2 of them had been too terrifying. They had the will but not the strength. With their current strength, they could not set foot on Dragon Gathering Island. Yu also did not want to risk his life. Once the sword was slashed out, unless he had the 9 secret body and turned into a true dragon, he would definitely be in danger. Even if he was lucky enough to survive, how could the 10 9-star martial sovereigns who were eyeing him covetously outside the Dragon Gathering Island let him go? Since Lord Dragon Head doesn't want to fight to the death, why don't we all put away our swords and have a good talk? Yu was the first to speak. The dragon head's expression was extremely cold. He changed the seal in his hands and the sword immediately descended slowly, stabbing back into the ground with a clang. Yu also made a hand seal and the glass world slowly disappeared. The Shumi ant sword turned into a ray of light and flew into his forehead, forming a sword light pattern. His body had also recovered from its transparent state, turning back into an ordinary body and standing in the air. The dragon head snorted coldly and struck out another seal. The aura on the entire Dragon Gathering Island gradually dissipated, and the clear sky was restored. However, with the disappearance of the sword Qi, the uneasy Qis in the dragon necropolis began to stir once more, causing him and the dragon guards to become extremely cold. Hand over the dragon shaking hammer and immediately leave the Rainland. This is the lowest I can accept. Letting the intruder leave was already the greatest humiliation for the dragon guards. But the Shumi Inata sword in Cheiyu's hand showed that he had the right to come and go as he pleased. They had to swallow this humiliation. I don't know much about the dragon shaking hammer. I can leave, but I have to enter the land of no beginning, Cheiyu replied. How dare you blaspheme the resting place of our ancestors, the dragon head shouted angrily. If you want to enter the land of no beginning, you must step over our corpses. The conversation between the two suddenly became stiff, and the atmosphere became extremely heavy again. With the disappearance of the sword Qi, the myriad waterfall that had gathered from an unknown place poured down again. The dragon gathering island was covered in white, and the waterfall surged to the endless sky. What? Suddenly, Cheiyu's brows twitched as he looked up into the sky. The waterfall did not pour down, but instead, it was flowing into a certain spot in the sky. The entire sky seemed to have caved in like an abyss, and all the water was flowing into the abyss. Not even the 10 dragon guards had ever seen such a sight before, and they were all dumbfounded. Sky abyss? Why is there an abyss in the sky? Everyone was stunned. Only the dragon head's face twisted, exuding boundless coldness and anger. Cheiyu looked on in a daze for a while. He suddenly came to a realization and said happily, the end of the sky. The place where all the water converged was the end of the sky. This abyss is the land of no beginning. His cry of alarm immediately caused the dragon guards to understand. The dragon head's face darkened. He knew that there was no way to ease the situation today. He changed his hand seal and grabbed the no beginning calamity sword in front of him. Cheiyu was also shocked and became alert. The sword radiance flashed between his brows and the Shumi Andot sword was swimming inside, ready to break out at any moment. Suddenly, one of the dragon guards cried out in alarm, "Who is it? Someone has entered the end of the sky." Everyone was shocked and looked up, only to see a bolt of lightning rush into the abyss with the gathering of water. Cheiyu was taken aback, but he immediately recognized that the figure was Yunxiao. Without saying a word, he performed an incantation gesture and transformed into a dragon, rushing toward the abyss. Damn it! Chase! The dragon head roared in anger. With the sword in its hand, it turned into an azure dragon and chased after him with a roar. After a brief daze, the other 10 dragon guards also trembled and furiously gave chase. For countless years, the guards had never had their dragon-shaking mallet taken away like today, and it had even invaded the most sacred place in the Rainland. A great sense of shame welled up in the hearts of all the dragon guards, and they instantly resolved to die. They had to kill each other. After Yunxiao flew into the heavenly abyss, he was surrounded by the sound of water and an endless dark space. It was like the starry sky outside, but it was darker than the starry sky, without any light. He quickly sensed that a dozen powerful auras were chasing after him. He laughed bitterly and increased his speed. However, as he went deeper, he was secretly happy. The deeper one's spiritual sense went, the greater the obstruction. Even with his spiritual sense, he could only extend it to a radius of 100 meters, and this range was still shrinking. In this way, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens for those people behind him to catch him. He unconsciously slowed down and began to carefully hide his figure. After all, this place was too mysterious. It would be a miracle if he were to die in a moment of carelessness. Humph. You think you can fish in troubled waters? Suddenly, the dragon head's cold voice sounded in his ear. Yunxiao was taken aback. He looked around in horror, only to see a man slowly walking over with a sword in his hand, his aura locking onto him. How could you lock onto me so accurately? Yunxiao's heart trembled, and a great confusion emerged in his mind. A faint azure light flashed through the air. It was the sharp and cold gaze of the dragon head. The dragon head raised its sword and slashed down. A boundless aura of destruction welled up in Yunxiao's heart, and he felt as if the sky was falling and the earth was cracking. In the face of such a great crisis, he was like an ant, unable to resist at all.